Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going west to sunny Los Angeles
Ooh, LA.
to take a look at how the city is tackling its affordable housing crisis.
Like everywhere she's.
And we've got a lot to dig into. We've got planning documents, fact sheets, even proposed ordinances.
A real treasure trove of information.
It's going to be quite a journey, so buckle up.
This CHIP program they're implementing is fascinating. It's not just about reacting to the housing shortage, but actually trying to change the rules of game to encourage more development.
It sounds pretty ambitious. So before we jump into the nitty-gritty details, paint a picture for us. What's the housing situation actually like in LA?
Well, the source material paints a pretty stark picture, High rents, overcrowding, a lot of people struggling to find a decent place to live.
Yeah, that's sadly a familiar.
Yes.
Okay, so enter CHIP, the Citywide Housing Incentive Program. Is this like a magic bullet that's going to make affordable housing appear overnight?
I like to be that simple.
Yeah.
It's more like a toolkit with different strategies. It's trying to make building affordable housing in LA more appealing and less of a headache for developers.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me. What are some of the tools in this toolkit?
Well, one of the key components is the state density bonus program. And this one's interesting because it's built on existing state law.
So they're working within the system clever.
Yeah, exactly. It's California Government Code Section 60915 to 65918, to be precise.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't legal experts, what does that actually mean in practice?
Basically, it allows developers to build more units than zoning would typically allow.
So like tall buildings, more apartments on a given lot.
Coffee state. They get to build denser, but in exchange, they have to include a certain percentage of affordable housing units in their projects.
So it's kind of a win-win. Developers get to maximize the profits and the city gets more affordable housing.
In theory, yes, of course, the details matter, and we'll dive into those later. But yeah, it's a way to leverage existing regulations to incentivize affordable housing development.
Makes sense. All right, so that's the state density bonus program. What else is in this CHIP toolkit?
Another key program is the Mixed Income Incentive Program, or MIIP for short.
Leap gutter.
And this one focuses on creating housing near public transit.
Okay, that makes sense, especially in a car-centric city like LA.
Right. The idea being that if people have easy access to buses and trains, they might be less reliant on cars.
So it's not just about housing, it's about transportation and sustainability too.
Exactly. It's about creating more livable communities.
Now, you said this program about mixed income housing. What does that mean exactly?
It aims to create neighborhoods where people from different income levels live side by side, trying to address concentrated poverty and create more diverse and inclusive communities.
So it's about oh, hey, our listener wants to join in.
Hey guys, great to join you. I just wanted to add a few points to this conversation. Number one, this ordinance did pass Los Angeles City Council's vote, but they still have to enact the law. So they're waiting on, the process in order to get that done. I think target date is February 12th. So yeah, we're potentially about a little over a month away from this passing, but I just wanted to kind of caution the audience that in between that time, there could be some additional edits to the ordinance. So, this is just a conversation on the latest draft of the ordinance. So be prepared or that there could be some potential changes to it.
Thanks for chiming in. That's a really important point.
Yeah, we really appreciate you adding that perspective.
It's true that even though the city council has approved it, the ordinance isn't fully enacted yet.
Right. So it's passed, but it's not law, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. The documents show the City Planning Commission recommended the city council adopt the ordinance back in September, and we now know it passed in December, but as you said, it still needs to be officially put into effect.
And the February 12th target date you mentioned lines up with what we've seen about the deadline for state approval, so that makes sense.
And you're totally right that there's still a chance for some changes between now and then.
So yeah, our discussion today is based on the latest draft, but it's good to remember that things could potentially shift a little.
Why ongoing public engagement is so important. It's important to keep up to date on the latest.
It's a good reminder that this is a process, not just a single event. So thanks for keeping us on our toes. We'll keep an eye on that.
So with that in mind, let's get back to CHIP. This whole program is like a puzzle with all these interconnected pieces.
It is. Okay, so we've got the density bonus program and MIP. What's the third piece of the puzzle?
The third component is the Affordable Housing Incentive Program, or AHIP. And this one is all about incentivizing projects that are 100% dedicated to affordable housing.
Okay, so unlike the other programs, which encourage a mix of market rate and affordable units, this one is laser focused on projects that are entirely for lower income merchants.
That's right. And to make it even more attractive for developers, AHIP expands the types of zones where these projects can be built. They're even allowing affordable housing to be built on land that's currently zoned for parking.
Wow, that's a pretty bold move, turning parking lot into apartments.
Just think about it. In a city that's notoriously car dependent, using land dedicated to cars for housing sends a pretty strong message.
Yeah, be a bit controversial. Hey, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are talking about AHIP. The other component I wanted to share with the audience here is that ED1 or Executive Directive 1 has been wildly popular in Los Angeles in terms of streamlining 100% affordable. But in comparison with AHIP, actually AHIP, I think, is a better program. And the reason why I say that is there's actually some additional public benefit features to this program that the developers could choose to provide. The example I'm going to provide is the multi-bedroom. So as long as you provide 10% of your total units as a minimum 3-bedroom, of course you could go higher, but just talking minimums here, you're able to activate, depending on, of course, a table that shares how many total units. But let's just say in this example, you're doing 75 and above units, you could essentially get
Wow, thanks for sharing that insight about AHIP. That's super helpful.
It's fascinating to hear about how AHIP stacks up against other programs.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah. So what I was saying was the public benefit option allows you to get a 2-to-1 floor area bonus and 2 stories, even above the additional or the base incentive. So that's going to be a huge game changer for all the people that were utilizing ED1 and were relying on it. I think this additional feature, along with the other base incentives, should start to still accelerate affordable housing development.
Wow, thanks for clarifying that. That's a great point about the 2.1 floor area bonus.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant incentive that you're pointing out.
And you're right, that floor area bonus could really be a game changer, especially when you combine it with those other base incentives.
Absolutely. It seems like AHIP is designed to offer much more flexibility to developers compared to ED1, which, as you mentioned, is important.
It sounds like the city's really trying to move beyond that old model and is trying to implement something new.
It's a good example of how they're hoping to accelerate affordable housing development with these additional features.
Okay, so for example, go for it.
Yeah, another quick point here is we have California SB4, which allows faith-based organizations, nonprofit colleges to build affordable housing on their properties, streamlined, but it comes with prevailing wage requirement, and that kind of makes it very difficult for some of these projects to pencil. But the current draft ordinance for AHIP allows them to utilize 100% affordable under AHIP without the prevailing wage. Now, of course, as I had said before, we're waiting until this gets signed into law, and that could be added in between that time. But if it isn't, it's going to be another opportunity for all these faith-based organizations to be able to join in and build 100% affordable.
Wow, thanks for that additional insight. It's another critical piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's a really important point about the SB4 prevailing wage requirement.
So you're saying that AHIP, as it's currently drafted, could offer an alternative pathway.
Exactly. It seems to open up possibilities for faith-based organizations and nonprofits to participate.
That's significant. It really could increase the pool of potential developers for affordable housing.
And it highlights how these different pieces of legislation interact and sometimes conflict.
It's good to know that the city seems to be thinking about those details.
It's definitely something we'll want to keep an eye on as the ordinance moves towards becoming law.
Okay, so with that important point in mind, let's get back to the public benefits of AHIP.
Right, because, this multi-bedroom bonus, it highlights that AHIP isn't just about density.
You're right. It's also about creating livable homes for families, too, like you said earlier.
Exactly. The document shows that if a developer provides a minimum percentage of units with multiple bedrooms, they can unlock additional benefits.
So it's like a bonus on top of a bonus, and that's an important detail.
Important detail to remember.
Okay, so where were we? Yes, we were just about to talk about another AHIP.
Right. This was also pretty interesting as it speaks to another trade-off for developers.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the deal?
Well, AHIP allows a reduction in parking requirements or even no minimum parking at all in some circumstances.
Okay, that makes sense, especially since we were talking about turning parking lots into housing earlier.
Exactly. It's another way the city is trying to reduce the car dependency and, go for it.
Yeah, I want to make an important point here. California also has AB 2097. So if a site is within a half mile of mass transit, they don't have to provide any parking as well. So I don't think that parking incentive is inherent to CHIP and AHIP. It actually just follows that state bill. I think more of the benefits here that the audience is going to be focused on is, are they going to get their bonus increases of floor area ratio so that they could fit all of the units? Unlimited density still comes with AB 2345 and 2344, and also reductions in setback, open space, and all that other good stuff. So just wanted to highlight that still comes with AHIP, and those are kind of the incentives that developers will be focused on.
Thanks for pointing that out. It's a really crucial clarification.
Yeah, that's a great point about AB 2097 and how it overlaps with CHIP.
You're absolutely right that the parking reduction isn't unique to CHIP.
So it's not really an added incentive of CHIP, more like it's just in alignment with state law.
It's a state requirement, not necessarily an additional benefit. And it's good to clarify that.
And it's helpful to understand that developers are likely more interested in those floor area ratio bonuses and density increases.
Yes, those are the real game changers that allow them to maximize the number of units they can build.
And those are also tied to AB 2345, which is good to know.
Which we touched on briefly earlier, yes. And you're right, they're also focused on reductions in setbacks, open space requirements, and all that.
So those incentives and flexibility are what makes CHIP attractive and not just the reduced parking.
It's about how the program offers flexibility on multiple fronts, and not just parking, which we've established is a state mandate.
Okay, so with that all cleared up, let's move on because it's all interconnected.
Right, it's a complicated web of incentives and regulations, and it all works together.
So with those programs in mind, let's see how they play out in the different zones.
Sounds good. We've got to take a look at how CHIP applies to the different areas within Los Angeles.
Okay, so how does the program account for the different neighborhoods?
You've got these opportunity areas, which are split into different tiers or T-zones.
T-zones, got it. So what do these tiers actually mean?
The T-zones are really based on how much access to opportunity it has.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just want to jump here again. So right now, until we get this ordinance legally kind of passed or signed into law, those maps that are publicly available on their website is not 100% accurate, but there is a lot of confusion here in terms of those T-zones, higher opportunity, higher density, half mile within transit. All that stuff is still a little bit complicated. So we're waiting on the city to kind of get that clear. But at Brickwork, of course, we've already reviewed some of those overlaps and overlays. And what's most important is, look, if I have a property and if I wanted to activate either density bonus, MIIP, or AHIP, then what is my bonus floor area ratio? What is the height increase? And what set of incentives am I allowed to get? And really the key point with those areas are going to be really the floor area ratios. That's really what segments and separates based on where you are. Can you get a 4.5, 4.625 as a base? Then you add, of course, the public benefit option to even add more floor area on top of that. So just wanted to make it a point. Very confusing. Come to Brickwork to be able to get that report. Of course, it's still in draft format. So the full disclosure is these reports are more guiding towards what is possible. And then once it's signed into law, then we know that they can move forward with that application.
That's a really crucial point you're making about the floor area ratios. Thanks for bringing it up.
It's helpful to hear that floor area ratios are the key factor when looking at these zones.
And it's fascinating that the base FR could be as high as 4.625 before adding public benefits, as you mentioned.
It sounds like a complicated system that developers really need to understand, and I can see why there's some confusion.
And it's interesting that you brought up this idea of guiding reports for developers. That's important too.
So it sounds like even the experts are still working through this draft ordinance, so keep that in mind.
Absolutely. These reports show what's possible, but also the rules are not yet fully set in stone.
So with that important clarification in mind, let's dig a little deeper